Ooh, looks beautiful. Ciao and benvenuti to the channel. A few weeks ago I made a Sicilian side dish called broccoli affocati, which stands for drowned broccoli in English. I provided a few variations during the recipe, but some of you have asked me of different applications of the dish. So today I will be making a schiacciata siciliana using the very recipe. Schiacciata is a word for similar to flatbread, but I will be making a very similar dough to what I would make if I was making a pizza. This recipe requires a little bit of planning, but is very simple. The first thing I'll do is to make the dough, so I'll start with a sachet of yeast, followed by half a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of sugar. This is warm water, not hot. I need to activate the yeast, so warm water is ideal. That's why there is also the sugar, and I'm measuring 300 milliliters, followed by a little drizzle of olive oil. I'll mix it all together, and as I mentioned, the warm water and the sugar will act as an accelerator and it'll become all very frothy. After a few minutes, my yeast is activated, has got a little froth on the top, and I'm ready to start making the dough. I've got here 400 grams of strong white bread flour, and I'll start pouring the yeast gently. I'll do half fast. I'm using these two Chinese sticks as it is easier to clean later, but you can use anything you got in the kitchen to mix it initially. And the purpose of the olive oil, by the way, is to make the dough more elastic. And I'll put the rest in, and I'll start bringing in all of the rest of the flour from the edges. And I'll continue mixing it until it becomes stiff and difficult for me to work it, which is now. So I'll put a little flour on my worktop, and I'll move my dough on the worktop. My dough is a little bit wetter than it needs to be, so I'm adding a little bit more flour. And using the palms of my hands, I'll start kneading it on the worktop. I'll do 3 or 4 turns like this, then I'll fold it in half, I'll go the other way, and I'll do it again. And I'll carry on for about 5 minutes until my dough is lovely smooth and is no longer sticky. And after 5 minutes this is ready, and you will know that it's ready because it'll feel nice and smooth, no longer sticky. So I'll put it back in my original bowl, and I'll put this plastic cover on top. This has got some ridges, so we'll let some air in. You can also use a damp cloth. And this will go inside my airing cupboard for a couple of hours. But after the first hour, I'll take it out. I'll give it another 2 or 3 minutes of kneading, and then I'll put it back inside with the cover for another hour. If you do not have an airing cupboard and you're looking for a warm place, put it inside the oven. But before you do so, turn the oven on to reach a temperature of 50, then turn it off and put it in, and do not touch it for an hour. Then get it out to do what I do after 1 hour, and then put it back in, but do not turn the oven on again, and that will give you a little bit of warmth. So in the meantime, I'll crack on with making the broccoli. So I made this recipe a few weeks ago, and I'll put up here a link to the very video which will give you a detailed step-by-step process. But as I'm making the recipe again today, I will give you a 1-minute accelerated version, so that if you haven't seen the video, this might be good enough for you, or if you've seen the video, this is a little reminder. A generous amount of olive oil in a frying pan, 2 cloves of garlic which I've crushed, and 1 medium white onion which I've already chopped. After 5 minutes, I'll add my broccoli, which I've chopped in little florets, including the stems as well, which I've cleaned and chopped in little pieces. After a couple of minutes, once the broccoli has, very loud, infused the flavor from the garlic and the onion, add half a glass of dry white wine. As soon as the wine starts bubbling, I'll put the lid on, and I'll turn the temperature down to medium-low, and it will cook for 15 minutes, and this is when the broccoli will drown effectively in the wine. And for the last 5 minutes, add these are pitted olives and sun-dried tomatoes in olive oil. And don't forget salt and pepper, like I nearly did. Quick mix, place the lid on, same temperature, another 5 minutes and they'll be ready. And after 5 minutes they're ready, and they smell wonderful. They're piping hot, of course, and I'll put 1 last drizzle of olive oil, and I'll mix it together. And as I mentioned before, this is a perfect side dish as it is, but I would leave it to cool down, as it will be a filling for my schiacciata in a little while. In the meantime, I'm going to show you the preparation of my other ingredients. Medium-sized potatoes, skin included, but you can remove it if you wish, and I'm slicing it in about half a centimeter pieces, like this. Hopefully you'll be able to see better in this camera. This is the thickness. My flatbread will not be cooking for very long in the oven, so I will be part cooking these. And today I will opt for a microwave option. I'll put a little water in here as well. And I'll cover the bowl using this little plastic cover, or you can use a cling film if you wish. And I'll put them in the microwave for about 4 to 5 minutes so that they're partly cooked. I will be making this a vegetarian meal, but if you wish you can also add sausages or bacon or pancetta. But if you were to add sausages or bacon, make sure that you pre-cook them before they go inside your flatbread, so that the focus is on cooking the dough later rather than having to worry about the raw sausages and bacon. And I'm going to be using 2 types of cheese. I've got a fresh mozzarella, and this is extra mature cheddar. The cheddar will provide some strong contrast against the bitterness of the broccoli, whereas the mozzarella, being a little bit more elegant, will melt and provide the stringiness that you often get in pizzas. And I'll slice my mozzarella, and also I'll do a very similar job with my cheddar. Quantity is entirely up to you, but to give you an idea, I'm using a mozzarella ball which is 125 grams, I believe, and this is a couple 100 grams of cheddar. If you were to add other ingredients such as sausages or bacon or anything else you wish, then reduce the amount of cheese. In my case, it will only be cheese alongside the broccoli, of course. My first hour is up, and I thought I'll show you what the dough looks like. Here it is, and has grown a little, so a little bit more flour on my worktop, and if I can get it out, I'll put it on top. There. Oh, very sticky. Kneading it halfway through is quite an important step, so try not to shortcut it, as it will make your dough far more flexible later. But this time, before it goes in the bowl one more time, I just add a little oil so that it will come out easier next time, and I'll place it in, and off it goes in the airing cupboard for another hour. Further hour on, and I'm happy that my dough has risen enough for me to make flatbread. I'm going to put a little oil on my worktop this time. I spread it with my fingers, and I'll go and fetch my wonderful dough. I'll give it a very quick mix together so that the oil covers the entire surface, and I'll chop this in half. Perfect. Here is some baking paper which I've greased with a little olive oil, and I'll lift half of my dough and place it on top. And using my fingers, I'm spreading the dough in such a way that it will fit my tin nicely. And let's take a look. Here is the tin. I'll lift this up and put it inside it. Yes, it fits perfectly, and I'm now ensuring that I raise the edges so that I can eventually seal it once I put the other half on top. And I'll start with the filling. Here are my potatoes, which obviously have cooled down, and they can go at the very, very bottom. This is a very typical ingredient at the bottom of every schiacciata or flatbread in Sicily. As I position my potatoes, I'm ensuring that I leave a little gap against the edge, anything between 1 to 2 centimeters, like this. Here I can do it, pushing this forward a bit. Cheese next, and this is half of my mozzarella and also half of the cheddar cheese. I found this lonely tomato in the fridge which was screaming at me to be used, so I decided to bring it in, but you don't have to, just because I don't want it to go to waste. Let me turn this around so hopefully you'll be able to see better. And next is all of my broccoli. Do not worry if you've got quite a lot, it will shrink when it goes in the oven, and also the top layer of my schiacciata is going to take care of it. And as the dough is very elastic, you can go at the bottom and pull it anyhow, like this. And I'm finishing the top with the remaining of my cheese. Press this down quite nicely and firmly, and I'll do the other half of my dough. New piece of baking paper, a little oil once again, spread it with my hand. Here's my dough. And as the dough is lovely and elastic, you will find that you will have no problems at all. Let's have a look. So here is the other half of my dough, and I'll gently put it on top. And I'll position it so that it's in the middle, and I'll peel the paper off. And I'll go in and I'll start sealing the edges from the top with the bottom. I made the paper at the bottom of the tin bigger for 2 reasons. This is reason number 1, so that it can help you whilst you are sealing the edges. The second reason is when it comes out, I'll show you later. And just go around a couple of times with your fingers, either this way or maybe this way is even easier, to ensure that the top part of the dough meets the bottom part of the dough, and by pushing it with your fingers you are creating a lovely seal. And it is almost ready for the oven. One last thing is one more drizzle of olive oil on the top. Quickly spread it across with your hands. And before it goes in the oven, just stab it a few times with a fork. And these little holes are really important because it will stop the dough from going up, but also it will aerate it slightly and that'll cook better. And of course, once cooked, it will look aesthetically very pleasing. Oven is on 180 degree fan oven, 200 conventional. I'll pop it in for 25 minutes, maybe longer, maybe shorter, unlikely that it's shorter, but I will let you know once it comes out. See you then. And it's cooked. It was in the oven for a further 10 minutes. After 25 it was okay, but I wanted the top to be lovely and brown as it is now. So it's piping hot, and I'll leave it for a few minutes as it is too hot to touch, and then we can take a good look. Can you hear that? It sounds absolutely wonderful. It's a good time to remove it from the tin now, and that is a good reason why the paper needs to be larger, so you can lift it without burning yourself. As I've oiled the paper, to remove it from the paper, it should be quite straightforward, but I tend to use a spatula, and I'll put that underneath and I'll move it to ensure that it's freed up, and you can see that it's moving quite easily. So gently lift the schiacciata and pull the paper out. And before I go any further, I just wanted to show you how perfectly it has sealed if I just quickly turn it around. Can you see? It's almost like a loaf of bread with a beautiful treat on the inside. Listen to the crunchiness, it's absolutely wonderful, and I'll treat it like bread actually. It's most probably the best way to carve it. Now take a look at this. Wow.
Oh, yum. Look at that.
It is very hot still, so I'm using this as a way to ensure that my filling doesn't come out. And I'm attempting to do a slice, like a slice of bread now. Ooh, it looks beautiful.
Is that my slice? That looks lovely.
It might be your slice, but I'm going to try some. And look at the potatoes at the bottom. They are a distinctive signature of Sicilian flatbread. This brings back so many memories. I said that before when I made something similar with sausages. It's delicious, and the benefit is that you can eat it piping hot like now, or you can eat it warm, or you can eat it cold, entirely up to you. But whatever you choose to do, it's absolutely bang on delicious. Make it, and let me know if you do make it, how you get on. You can also choose semolina bread, go 50-50 semolina with the white strong bread flour. But if you were to choose semolina, which will give you a little bit more of an authentic schiacciata flavor, you will need a little bit more water, because it's a little bit more needy. Ok, arrivederci, grazie, and buon appetito. Thank you for watching. Ciao ciao.
Wow. Looks lovely.